until you have a desire to actually kill these things in your life, it's not going to go away, because it's not easy. Porn will come back at you again. It's still going to be trying to get you. Same with video games. And unless you have hard and fast rules over what you can intake, then it's going to come back again. Like, the biggest question is, what are you watching as movies or TV, right? Are you watching things that maybe have some lewd scenes in them or humor that brings you back? Because guess what? That's going to trigger all these things that are already in your head to where, boom, it's going to be a lot easier. You hear the lie, it's okay, this is not hurting anybody. I'm just doing it for myself. Nobody else is being hurt but myself. You have so many more things at risk when you do things like this, because it's taking out who you are and what you have to offer to your community around you.
Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
All right, well, today's guest is Micah Montgomery, and he is my favorite son-in-law. I've known Micah, 5-6 years?
Yeah, coming close to 7, I think.
Coming close to 7. Micah married my oldest daughter, and Micah is super intentional, and I've known Micah for a while. I've seen him struggle with things and come out of things, and he has a big heart for young men, young women, and just seeing them live more intentional. So I wanted to get him on the show today, but Micah, could you give us the backstory? Who's Micah Montgomery?
Man, this guy sounds great. Yeah, nothing much to tell. I was kind of the normal kid as much as you could tell. I grew up homeschooled, meant a lot of time outside and playing and stuff, and a lot of free time on my hands. Pretty normal story. Grew up in a church home. My family taught me the basics of what it meant to believe in God and in Jesus, and that it's shaped my life in so many different ways and in so many wonderful ways. And my parents honestly did a really, really good job being intentional about how they raised us, to make sure that we were, separate from the world and not open to maybe some of the influences that others would be. And so that was part of the reason why they thought homeschooling was such a good idea. And man, I wouldn't go back, because all the extra time, I used to do my school, and because I loved doing other stuff so much, I would just get it done at like 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, be like, all right, cool, now I have the rest of the day to, play sports or go outside or do other stuff. So, that's my story. And then, coming up on 3 years now, we're 2 years, almost 3 years. My wife and I got married. Lovely, lovely wife. You did a good job raising her.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's just an amazing adventure that we've really enjoyed. So, that's my story, and ready to talk about some good stuff.
Micah, I've had your dad on here too, and when I talked to him, it was about intentional parenting. What were some things that your dad did? Specifically your dad. Maybe you could say your mom too. I feel like your mom did the homeschool, but I know that your dad is super intentional and raises solid young men. So what do you think, what's your dad's secret sauce from the son's perspective? What are some extracurricular things your dad did to help prepare you guys for the world, do you think?
That's a great question. So I think with my dad's philosophy for teaching, he wanted us to kind of be life schooled. Like, we grew up with a very eclectic background of just a ton of different stuff, like different people that we met, different circumstances we were in, tons of different random things that we did during the week and week out. And then he taught us a lot, how to change a tire and basic stuff like that. And so I felt like something that he did a super good job, specifically raising boys, because we had 6 boys and 1 girl. Like, for me, it was this initiation as a man to learn more about what does it mean to be a man, and getting all these different things done that really, truly, I don't think a whole lot of kids learn about.
Yeah.
So I think he did a really good job with that. And then the other thing is, he really wanted to make sure that we were taken care of, so that we didn't get exposed to things too early. Dad wanted to make sure that as we were growing up into young men, that we weren't exposed to movies too early that we shouldn't have been, that maybe the world thinks is okay, but something else that maybe would affect us long term and stuff. And so that was another way that he was really intentional with us. So I think those two things combined of getting us prepared for things that maybe some other people weren't, and then holding us back until we were ready for maybe some other things. I felt like that was something that he did really good with.
Now, Mike, I feel like you're a very well-rounded individual. You talk very well. You're overly confident at times. But most people would say you're homeschooled, and homeschool kids have
Problems,
social
yeah.
issues. So what did your parents do to make sure that you weren't a social delinquent?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I honestly see a lot of homeschoolers that do end up being that way. If their parents aren't super hands-on, it can really become a problem pretty fast. Now, my mom and dad both did a good job just making sure we had a bunch of stuff to do with a bunch of different people. Like, we had a co-op. I played sports, basketball, football, and stuff.
Say co-op.
Co-op, yeah. Sorry, for people that don't
You're
don't
throwing
know.
over this because you're a homeschool kid.
Yeah. So co-op is basically just like where we get all of our sciences done. So you can do pretty much all the homeschooling things, but the lab sciences are a little bit harder to do at the house.
Yeah.
So a bunch of people get together, and that specific class is like
Bunch of homeschool families.
Bunch of homeschool families get together like once a week, and they basically do a day of school together. They knock out the lab sciences, and then there's like PE, and sometimes there's random, fun courses that people can take on like history or other stuff like that.
But it's a way for you to engage with other kids.
Sure. And other kids that are our age. So that's number one. Two, I played a bunch of sports. Growing up, I think I've touched every sport besides hockey and lacrosse. and so those just weren't really in our area at all. And so I've developed a lot of relationships through that. And then, I did band for a long time, and there were relationships there. So keeping us busy was one thing to really help. And that probably took a huge toll on mom and dad both to drive us to different things like practices, band practices and stuff.
That's what parents do.
It's what parents do, yeah. So that was one thing that we really got. And then on top of that, we would experience just going and hanging out with older people too. Like, I feel like people always talk about homeschoolers being these like dumb kids that don't know how to socialize. But what you're teaching the kids who go to school is that they can only talk to people that are in their age range. And everybody else is like, oh, that little loser who's in 7th grade, whatever. Like, he's not a 9th grader. And with homeschool, it's never been that. Like, I've had a bunch of friends who are like 5 years older than me, 5 years younger than me, that I would consider super close friends, which is how it happens in adulthood. Like, you get to be, over like 25 or 30. At that point, you just are friends. It doesn't matter what age you are. So I think that's something that homeschooling has a huge advantage in the social realm, is just being able to develop relationships from that.
If you want to wear a billboard of a message of kill complacency or live intentionally, then check out my merch store. It's www.mindsetshop.com. Mindset is with an X, so it's MINDXET shop, SHOP.com. Mindsetshop.com. Talk to me a little bit about your journey, Micah, regarding you're a young man. You get your schoolwork done early. You got this extra time on your hand. Are you using this time as a 15-year-old to be productive, or were you doing other things?
Yeah, so from the outside looking in, people would probably call my life just perfect. He's the good kid. He's doing everything right. And I would say probably something that I got from my parents is just, if you do something right, you get a reward for that, right? If you don't do the wrong thing, then you don't get any punishment. So for me, I would always just try to show this huge front of like, oh, I'm the perfect kid. Like this guy over here, he's getting to school on time, he's doing all these different things. But yeah, some of the rest of my story was not that. I always hid behind that pose. But even then, when I was younger, I got super addicted to porn whenever I was 12. And my dad had to talk to me about it and stuff. But you know how it is as a guy. Like, it was just this thing that was consuming in my life, and an addiction and a habit and stuff. And not only that, but I also had an addiction to video games. And I think that is something that everybody who's a young man is experiencing, is addictions to video game. It got so bad that I would be doing like a math course online or whatever else, and then I would like be doing video games every little bit until I would see somebody coming in the room or whatever else. Then I'd click off of it or whatever, hiding because I want to be the perfect kid still, right? And so, man, I was just taken by those two things specifically. They just consumed my whole life. Anything else? So I would have sports and I would have these things that I had as obligations, whether they're chores or school. But like everything else was just like I'm either playing video games or doing porn. Like that was my story growing up.
So what you said in there, you think that a lot of people or young men are struggling with it. Why do you think that is? What's the draw? What's the appeal?
So this is something that I've learned from John Eldridge, who wrote a book called Wild at Heart, and it's because they're a medication. Okay, and so I'll explain why that is, and it fuels the addictive part of it, right? So most of the problem of the video game or porn isn't the video game or porn, right? Those things are addictive.
Sure.
But that's not why you're doing them. You're doing it for a different reason, right? You're medicating from something else that you're hiding from. Whether that's something like you feel like you're a failure or you're inadequate or stuff like that. Early on in my work as an insurance agent, I remember what would happen was anytime I would get to have like some sort of hard day at work, I would be doing the work, but then it'd be like I get this emotional exhaustion and I would pop over to video games because I just felt like
that was your happy place.
That was my happy place, and it's and it came because about this feeling of woundedness in inadequacy. For me, I felt like as a young kid, I just needed to know how to do everything and be like really good at it.
You want to be perfect.
Right, exactly. And so that fueled me into this, either I'm going to be perfect or I'm not. And that the times that I felt like I was not, man, I mean, that would just kill me. Like it would terrify me. What if I don't have what it takes to be able to do this job?
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, that right into video games. And so they're just an escape, like I don't have to think about my job or my work or where I'm failing if I'm playing this video game that I'm doing pretty good in, because I'm one of those, I heard that certain personality types can fit video games, like super smart kids, like high IQ type things, like those kids are like good at video games and stuff. And I have an easy addicted nature. So for me, it was just like, cool, I'm really good at this. And so it felt good to actually be good at something and not have to deal with the things I'm inadequate in.
So talk to me, Mike, a little bit about this, because we all have wounds, right? We all have things we want to escape. And we all have pressure built in our life. And we all want to grab our phone and scroll social media, play video games, look at porn, whatever. But you just told me that we need to go deeper, that there's a wound we need to address. Talk to the listeners. How do you help? How would you recommend those people go deeper? So let's say we've got a listener and they're like, yeah, I've got a problem. I know I need to kill complacency in my life in this area. Whatever it is. Maybe they have a shopping addiction. What advice would you give to them? Because you're a young guy, and I think you're super intentional. And I feel like you figured it out. And I'm sure you still, there's some of this. There's always going to be. But how do people come to a place where they can confidently say, I used to be this way and now I'm not? So what did you have to work through?
It wasn't easy. I heard a quote the other day that emotional maturity is facing reality completely and without looking away from it. Like to be an emotional mature person is to look exactly at what reality is like without trying to hide any of it or ignore any of it. And so, number one, you kind of have to just look at what the facts are. The truth is with guys, everybody who's a guy is trying to fight for validation. And I know you've probably talked about this with Ryan Moore. Validation is huge. Like, where do you get this approval from, right? And so the approval I was trying to seek is, am I good enough? Like, can I actually do what it takes? And so I went anywhere that I could to fulfill that. And then when I felt like I couldn't, then that's when I would medicate really bad.
Sure.
And so part of it is you gotta understand what is it that you're trying to get validated from, right? And so having help from a counselor or from somebody who maybe has been in their journey a little bit longer is something I would recommend. Going through and doing the work like that is super important. And then number one, just have a relationship with Jesus. Like, none of this power is on my own.
Sure.
Like, I can't really truly fulfill all these different things and actually get away from the woundedness or the addictedness without Jesus' help. So, if you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus, that's the number one place you have to start at.
Over the years, I have been coached by countless mentors, and now I want to offer that to you as well. How? By Marty Hofmann's Life Coaching. This will be a 6-week program in which I will guarantee you will develop a more growth mindset. We will set goals and learn about the importance of the processes and habits behind those goals. I will also help you see your story differently as things happening for you, not to you. We will also be discussing your future self and give you clarity on who that is and what it looks like. For more information, please follow the link below or hop on martyhoffman.com and follow the coaching link. So I'm looking for validation, and my stress is building in my day. And so I go over to XYZ and I get my validation there. Obviously we all know, I think, but what happens to the individual when they're constantly escaping their pressures and filling the void of reality with other things?
That's a great question. I would say, God made the world to work in a certain way. And when it doesn't work in that way, bad things end up happening. Now, with specifically, let's just take specifically video games and porn. I think they're very similar. I think that the wounds that you get from them and the reasons you go to them are very similar. There's some different things you can be addicted to, but I think for those two things, they're actually very similar. You hear the lie, and I heard the lie for a long time in my head of just like, it's okay, this is not hurting anybody, right? I'm just doing it for myself. Nobody else is being hurt but myself. Maybe it stinks that I'm hurting myself.
Yeah.
But, there's nobody else that's going to get in the way of these two things. But you had Brant Hansen on this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wrote a book called The Men We Need. And he was very clear in that book, like, you have so many more things at risk when you do things like this, because it's taking out who you are and what you have to offer to your community around you.
Sure.
Right? What we see in our culture today is a culture that's saturated with men that aren't able to step up into roles that they're supposed to in biblical masculinity, of providing for a family,
sure,
or setting up businesses, or changing the world, like the things that God made men to do, right? To rule in their own little areas. You see them not doing that, because with porn and with video games, the escape takes over more and more of your life.
Sure.
It never can just be this 5-minute quick fix and then we're good, right? In order for it to work, it has to be more and more and darker and darker and deeper and longer, right? With porn, you see this dark trail of worse and worse things, right?
Sure.
You have all the child abuse, all that stuff, right? With video games, it's just this expanding of longer and longer and more of your life.
You always want to conquer more.
You always want to have
get
more.
the next game, get
Exactly.
the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and none of these things, the truth is, none of these things are real to reality. Like with video games, you're never, ever, ever going to have that easy of a thing come up.
Slay the dragon that easy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's never going to be that measurable. And
win at war, get a new life.
Yeah, and so it's an adventure. You don't get to live that adventure. And then, like with porn, it's maybe something frankly more interesting or beautiful than you might have in the rest of your life, right? The people who get addicted to porn can't just like hop out of it and say, whatever else is working in life is going to keep working for them, because it's so deep seated into who they are now. And so these things grab root and grab hold of your life so much that they become an identity almost, that's who you are.
So what advice, Micah, would you give to somebody who says, yes, I want out. I want to change. I'm listening to you, and I know that I've been in this spiral for 10 years, and you're right. It's gotten worse. It's darker. How do people break the chains? How do they kill complacency? How do they be more intentional? How do they wake up and be the man that God's called them to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the first thing is, do they actually want to? Because until you have a desire to actually kill these things in your life, it's not going to go away, because it's not easy. But in my personal life, I think there were like 4 things that I did that ended up really breaking the bonds for me. Okay, so the first thing I did was I quit cold turkey. Okay, so with porn, it was a little bit of a harder thing. So I quit cold turkey, and then I failed again. I quit cold turkey and then I failed again, right?
Sure.
But I knew in my head, I'd made a decision, this is not going to keep going. And so it was like a withdrawal for me, right? But it kept getting farther and farther and farther away until eventually, boom, out of my life. But with video games, so I was playing video games up till year one of Kazai and I being married. And I realized it was getting more and more in between us as a relationship, because honestly, it does, If I'm paying more attention to video games, then I'm not going to be paying attention to her. And I quit cold turkey for a year. 1 year, no video games. The only thing that I did that entire year was chess.
I remember you made that as a goal that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I remember you saying, my goal is to only play chess as a video game. Mm-hmm. And I thought, he's playing chess?
Yeah.
But you had, it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was huge.
When I was a kid, I loved Othello. Mm-hmm. We had this handheld, we didn't hardly have anything, but we had handheld Othello. And I got pretty good at Othello because I could just play it.
Yeah, over and over and over again. Yeah. And that's the video game thing again. But so first off, I had to cut cold turkey. And whether it was cut cold turkey, I accidentally messed up, but then I keep going again. With video games, I actually didn't. The whole first year, just completely got it out of my lives, right? The Bible verse says, the righteous will fall, the righteous will fall, but get up again 7 times. That's what I had to do. You had to just keep fighting, getting up and stuff.
Sure.
That's where you see the true biblical men and women as well get up from the things that maybe have caused them to stumble.
Sure.
So that was the number one thing. 2, I had to have hard and fast rules still in my life, right? So porn will come back at you again. It's still going to be trying to get you. Same with video games. And unless you have hard and fast rules over what you can intake, then it's going to come back again. The biggest question is, what are you watching as movies or TV, right? Are you watching things that maybe have some lewd scenes in them or humor that brings you back? Because guess what? That's going to trigger all these things that are already in your head to where, boom, it's going to be a lot easier, right? I heard a story in a book once where this is the line set.
Sure.
Right? And what happens in it is, this is me here. I'm saying I'm not going to go to this line. The line's not going to be here, whatever else. I'm not going to get divorced. I'm not going to have, addiction to porn, whatever it is, right? You get closer and closer to the line. You're like, you know what? I'm still fine. I'm still over this line. But eventually, it falls, right? And you're like, well, what happened? Why did this happen? I was still behind my line. It's because you kept getting closer and closer. If I'm over here and the line is here, right? I'm saying I'm not going to look at any woman, period. I'm not going to look at any woman with lust, period. If there's a jogger running, if there's anything like that, I'm going to keep myself pure. Oh, I accidentally see a jogger. That's as far as I'll ever go, right? And if I have accountability, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit, then that makes it even more strong, right? So I had to have hard and fast rules. Couldn't watch certain type of movies, couldn't, go on to computer or phone at certain times of night, even for a while, couldn't be myself because I couldn't trust myself, to be honest. So hard and fast rules were super important. Even now, I still have rules about video games. For example, my wife and I, we have a Wii in our house. In order to keep me from playing it, we pack it up every single time that we play it, and we can only play it once a month. We've probably played it 2 times in the last year because of how annoying it is to have to get it out and put it up and all that stuff. And then other than that, no video games on my phone, none at work. And then the only other time that I can play it is if I'm in a community with other friends in some other location. And so I'll tell you that's probably happened 3 times over the last year. So that's how I keep intentional about video games. Because ultimately, I like winning.
Sure.
If I'm going to play a video game, I want to win. And so it's either play it or don't play it. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is cut cold turkey. Second is have hard and fast rules. The third thing, I had to make things in my life become the focus. I had to make it the adventure. Right? There's a quote by...
Say that again. You had to make things. So you had to be more intentional with...
I had to make things more intentional, and I had to start seeing growth in those things. I had to make that the priority, right? When I make Kazaya my priority in marriage and start seeing some massive growth in it, then I'm not so interested in porn anymore. When all of a sudden I become better at insurance and I'm starting to see growth there, all of a sudden this is more interesting to me than video games, right? And there's a quote that I really, really love that I heard this last weekend when I was at a base camp with True North. The quote is, "When a man becomes who God created him to be, every day is an adventure, right? And so I had to make that the case for me. I had to make every single day an adventure in some way. And you know, that, I don't know what specific things float your boat, but I had to find other things to maybe use my time for and stuff, whether that's Bible study or I'm part of a barbershop chorus. Like that floats my boat a whole lot, and so I'll use my time for that too. You know, there are other things in life other than video games and porn or whatever else your addiction is that you can find.
I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.